Holt, and I'm the chair of the Oversight Committee. We are going to get rolling in just a few moments. I want to give a couple of minutes for a few committee members to potentially get in, and then also our housing director, or I should say the housing director for the Portland Housing Bureau. So we'll get going in just a moment. Present. It is good to see people in person. Glad you are here. Good to see the Oversight Committee and the hosts in this wonderful facility. So thank you very much for hosting us here at New Song. It is July 11th, 2024, if you can believe it. We're almost halfway through the 7th month of 2024. Again, I am Dr. Stephen Holt, and I chair the Northeast Neighborhood Housing Strategy Oversight Committee.
Recording in progress.
Just about to say that. Awesome. Thank you so much. I will begin by calling roll for the Oversight Committee members. And let's begin with those who are online tonight. I believe we have Sheila Holden. Sheila, if you can unmute and say hello.
Hello. Happy summer, everybody.
Happy summer to you. Glad you're here. Tanisha.
Good evening. Good to see everyone.
Good to see you as well. And I'm looking for other members. Has Jillian made it yet? Okay. Is there any other member online? Just those two. Okay, excellent. Achilles.
Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody.
See you. John, of course, right after get a nice bite.
Present.
Wonderful. And others will be joining us as we go forward. Tonight, we're going to follow our agenda pretty directly and encourage any commentary and interaction or questions associated with the items that are on the agenda. However, if there are concerns and if there are things to be addressed that are not on the agenda, let me encourage you to engage with the Portland Housing Bureau staff. And so I'm going to ask Portland Housing Bureau staff to identify themselves. Those who are in the space, raise your hands, and then those who are on the screen, if you could turn your screens on, please, maybe wave at the screen so people know who Portland Housing Bureau people are. Awesome. Thank you very much. Pretty straightforward agenda tonight, pretty simple conversations, and we look forward to our time. I turn it now over to our director, PHB's director, Helmi.
Great, thank you so much. Really glad to be here. Appreciate that. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So Helmi Hisurik, I am the director at PHB, and I started in February, and this is my first time being live and in person at the North-Northeast Committee meeting, so thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here. My director's report, I want to begin with a thanks and appreciation to Dr. Holt and to Leslie for their presentation on June 13th at City Council on the North-Northeast Preference Policy. I think it went very well. I was not able to be there, but I was watching you on screen, and so I got to see the entire presentation, and for anyone who missed it or wasn't able to see it, it is recorded online, and you can access it through the city's website. The second thing I want to talk a little bit about is the city's transition. Starting July 1, the city is now embarking on a transition, the test of the new model of government that will be taking place in the city. So it doesn't officially start until January 1, 2025. And when that happens, there will be a mayor executive branch and a city administrator reporting to the mayor as the executive branch of government, and the city council will be legislative. But we are embarking on a test run now, and so starting July 1st of this year, all of the departments now report to the mayor. So none of us report to commissioners, and commissioners are, although they legally have executive authority still afforded to them through the end of the year, they are acting in a more legislative capacity. And so there's a lot of change taking place within the city. A lot of codes are being rewritten. A lot of new structures are being created. And I will just say it's an interesting time to be within the city of Portland, learning the process. More specifically, the Housing Bureau is part of a service area. So they've clustered departments together in what are known as service areas. The service area that the Housing Bureau is in is the Community and Economic Development service area, and that includes 4 departments or 4 bureaus of the city. So the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, the Permitting, Planning and Development Department, Prosper Portland, and the Housing Bureau. So we 4 directors meet together, and we all report up to a deputy city administrator, Donnie Oliveira. He used to be the head of BPS, but now he's in this interim deputy city administrator. So it's a very, the good part of that process is that we're all, as departments, talking to one another, and I think what you'll see coming forward is more alignment between bureaus within the city. There are some really important staff changes taking place at PHB that I want to share. First of all, Michael Bonacore, who's been coming here for quite a while now, who is acting as our interim, he was the interim director and then also the interim deputy director when I came on board. He moved into that role. He departed as of June 30th, and so it was a loss to us, but he's moving on to his true love, I think, which is doing some writing, and we're really wishing him well. And that means that we are recruiting 2 very important positions. We're recruiting the deputy director position for Portland Housing Bureau, and we're recruiting the director of policy and planning. So those are 2 high-level positions. And together with Leslie, we'll make up the executive team of the Bureau. And we've had a lot of interest. The recruitment just closed yesterday. for both of those positions. There were 68 applications for the deputy director and 71 applications for the planning and policy director. So we're hoping we find some strong candidates in both of those positions. And that will really create a new leadership team and executive team for the Bureau. And then lastly, as part of the city transition, we've been asked to take a look at the potential for consolidation of the advisory bodies to all departments. So every department is undergoing this. It does not affect the North-Northeast advisory body, but but Portland Housing Bureau actually has 5 different commissions. So we have the Bond Oversight Committee, which has been the committee that's been overseeing the housing bond. The housing bond is fully expended, and so that commission will have a natural sunset. That one will be coming to a natural sunset probably by the end of this year. We have a Fair Housing Committee, we have a Rental Services Commission, and we have the Portland Housing Advisory Commissions. We have 3 separate commissions in addition to North-Northeast and the Bond Committee. And those 3 commissions, we are going through a listening session process with all the commissioners and taking stock of whether or not we can consolidate that into one larger commission with subcommittees so that it would be less of an administrative burden for the department and also give more connection and interaction for those commissions, some opportunity for dialogue. So we're going through that, and we will make a recommendation to City Council after we've gone through the process of doing both a listening session. We are also looking, I will say we're also looking at advisory bodies of other housing bureaus or housing departments in other cities just to kind of gauge whether or not we are sort of in parity or similar to other cities. Once we have all of that, we will make a recommendation to City Council moving forward with a new commission structure. All commissioners have been asked to step back, and we will be appointing new commissioners. And that's it, the life of change in City of Portland and Portland Housing Bureau.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Helmi. Questions for Helmi? I will go first to Sheila. Do you have any question for or about, or even comment in regard to the director's report?
Welcome to the team. I don't have a question right now. I think that my biggest, what I heard you say is that the role of the Oversight Committee will remain intact, the same. Is that correct?
That is correct. This Oversight Committee will not change.
And we report our findings and our recommendations as we make changes and do the oversight to who under the new structure?
It's still to. So you currently report to the housing director and to the housing commissioner. And since the structure is changing, we will be reporting to the mayor or to the DCA. We're still working through that, but we will have to change your charter a little bit once we get into the new structure of the reports will go to the DCA and then to City Council. So the DCA is kind of the interim, taking the place of the housing commissioner.
And DCA is?
I'm sorry, Deputy City Administrator.
Thank you very much.
So I will be updating your charter for that.
And again, what is the name of the DCA?
Donnie Oliveira.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Tanisha Renee, question, comment?
I don't have any questions or comments at this time.
Thank you very much. Aquiles.
Now I was just going to say, welcome. Are you a native Oregonian or from another place?
No, thank you. I appreciate the welcome. I'm actually from California. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles and had worked for many years for the city of Los Angeles, and I'm really, really delighted to be here.
Wonderful. John.
Well, it sounds like things are about to get pretty interesting. Yeah, and welcome. Yeah, we knew when you were hired, but we never got a chance to say hello, and so hello. Yeah.
Awesome. Look forward to how it shapes out. We have had direct access to commissioners, so I guess we'll have direct access then to the DCA and then on to the mayor.
Yeah, I think, so even though you will report up to the DC or to the mayor, we'll figure out, very likely to the mayor is what I would think. I think, the legislative body will still have considerable amount of power and role in the city. I'm sure all reports will continue to go to the city council. And so the direct relationship will change, but the communication to the entire legislative body will still be important.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We are now going to have an NHP update, and that will be John Trend. John.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ho. Good evening, members of the Oversight Committee. My name is John Trin. I am with the Neighborhood Housing Preservation Manager. I am sorry I'm not there presently. I'm online virtually. I'm here to present to you in terms of the Neighborhood Housing Preservation Preference Policy Home Ownership Update. Although it's an update, there's not a lot of update. So with that, I'm going to go to the next slide, please. So as of the end of last year, 2023, we had 127 families who became first-time home buyers since we started. The majority of those home buyers are in the Northeast through our preference policy program. Our preference policy program, of course, is helping community members who have been displaced, redlined out of Northeast to have an opportunity to come back to Northeast to be able to be homeowners. And so I want to thank you, the committees, for supporting us, supporting the recommendation to increase the down payment assistance program to $150,000. We started that in June after we got the approval with the committee with Prosper. And so I'm hoping that within this summer that we will see some actions around terms of folks being able to purchase and be ready to get a mortgage and buy homes. Next slide, please. With 127 new home buyers, we have the majority are Black African-American, 86%. The next category is white at 6%. We got Hispanic at 3% with multiracial at 3%. And then Asian and Native Pacific Islander at 1%. And next slide, please. And it's great to see in terms of when we look at in terms of area median income, folks who are buying homes out of the 127, 40% are at the 61 to 80% area median income. 28% are at the 81 to 100% area median income. It's great to see that folks who are making below 60% area median income are also purchasing home, and that's at 27%. And we have 5% of folks making 101 to 120% area median income purchasing home within the Northeast. I think next slide. I think that's our last slide. So if there's any question, I'm happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I will again begin with our remote committee members, and I will start again with you, Ms. Holden, Ms. Sheila. Any question or comment?
I'm happy to see the numbers. I guess my one question I have is how many applications do we have right now for first-time home buyers that are kind of in the mix?
So, Ms. Sheila, we had the open round back in the spring, and we had just over 1,000 people apply. And we are still in the process, and Divisha probably will be covering some of this in her report. So I don't want to steal all her thunder, but we are in the process of doing a point verification for everyone that applied. And then later this summer, we will be sending the list over to PHC for them to begin working with people on their homeownership counseling and mortgage readiness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tanisha Renee.
No comments.
Okay, thank you. Achilles.
That's good numbers. How did the new pricing and interest rate going to be affecting these new applicants?
Well, I think at 150,000 is great. It's a great number just to increase to. I know that we just forwarded that information to Portland Housing Center, PHC. And so I know that Ira was going to be here, but he had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to talk about it. I know that Dana Shepard is online with PHC, so I'm not sure if she wants to chime in to see if the $150,000 down payment assistance program limit, is that helpful or where we are at in terms of getting folks what we call mortgage ready to buy a home.
I can't really speak to that right this moment. I apologize. I would say that any increase is absolutely amazing. And Christy Gifford, who's our preference policy lead counselor, will be going back through the list of the people that we already have. But we are very excited to get the new list at the end of the summer, a fresh list. So just remember the list that we have is the list from the applicants from 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
And just one clarification, the 150,000 is 135,000 for down payment and 15,000 for home improvement. The 15,000 is a grant, and so the loan is the 135,000. That's what they would have to pay back if they sold the house before 15 years. At 15 years, it's 50% forgiven, and then it's 3% per year for each year after that, and then totally forgiven at year 30.
Thank you very much. John?
As I recall, a couple of meetings back, we had some asset on the books, that the single, with the one-bedroom assets. Does this show what type of housing that was purchased?
We do have that information. It's not in here, but I can send it to you.
I appreciate that.
Most of the people that purchased bought at least a 3-bedroom.
Oh.
So I think it was like 60% of the folks bought at least a 3-bedroom with 2 bathrooms. So we have been tracking that, and Ira does have all that information, so I can get it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. We are excited about the opportunity to see 127 homeowners at this current moment. We're going to talk about some other opportunities for homeownership tonight. I think we have another 70 units that are about to come online, right around there. Okay, great. We'll get there then.
Give or take.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Think about going from 0 homeowners to that number and being a part of creating a pathway for people to be able to do that. It's phenomenal. One of the things we proposed at City Council was the adjustment around, can everybody hear me?
Just scoot the mic over a little bit.
Okay, well, I have a booming.
I know.
Yeah. One of the things we proposed at City Council was to expand the capacity to help families. Is at this point, we have a 30% assistance programs or 60% assistance. We don't have 40 and 50%. And so with our current pricing and the current income, especially with Black families, they're falling into gaps that weren't being served. So one of the things that we proposed as an area of focus, and hopefully will become a part of the new programming of what happens, is to increase these specific numbers to provide services to these other families. We want to help as many people become homeowners as possible. So doing good work, we've got much more work to do.
Just one other piece on the homeownership. At your meeting in September, I will be presenting the new goal for homeownership. We previously had a goal of 115 families by the end of 2023. And so he will be presenting the new goal, given the additional resources and the units that are coming online for us to reach by, I think it's 2028. I think it's 2028.
29?
29?
Yeah.
Is it 29, John? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Thank you. Divisha, next on our agenda is the preference policy updates. So Divisha, welcome into the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Divisha. I'm the Housing Program Coordinator at the Portland Housing Bureau, and today I'll just be covering some of the latest updates on both the rental and homeownership waiting lists. I'll also be discussing our next steps and some initiatives we're doing to better align and better engage with applicants. Next slide, please. So we have received a total of 2,651 applications for the rental housing waitlist to date. For the homeownership waitlist, we have about 1,057 applications, submitted. This shows a significant interest and underscores the need for support for these families. Next slide, please. Here we have a breakdown of applications by point cohort. You'll see the numbers listed there. You may notice there is a significant number of folks in the latter point cohorts. Again, that's expressing and underscoring the need. But we do and have seen some significant growth in the point cohorts between 6 and 2. Next slide, please. Right. For the home ownership waiting list, again, it is another breakdown by point cohort. Still seeing more in the 0 point cohort, but we are seeing impressive and larger numbers in the prioritized point cohort 6 through 2, and 6 through 1. Next slide, please. And here I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more on a priority status designation. So while we do have people who apply for preference points, we also have what's called a priority status designation, which was previously referred to as eminent domain. This is given to families whose properties were taken by Portland City government through the process of eminent domain. And these individuals are also simultaneously being verified for preference points in case it is found that the home was not taken by the city, but through other means. The total number of families that applied for priority status, excuse the typo, is 137. And the importance of this is essentially to ensure that those that were most impacted by these policies, racist housing policies, are given the assistance that they need or the prioritization that they deserve. Next slide, please. So I wanted to take us through a little bit of the home ownership waitlist phases and elaborate a bit more on the phase that we're in. So there's, of course, the application phase, which is the first phase of it. This is where families submit their applications. We accept those applications either online, by mail, or in person. And then we have the verification phase. This is where families are asked to provide us documents to verify their eligibility for the preference points that they apply to. These documents typically they always include government issued ID. All applicants are required to provide that. Proof of address, if that applies, that they provided for themselves, which earns them anywhere between 0 to 3 preference points, and proof of the address for their parent, guardian, or ancestor. We ask them to provide this in a range between 2 to 4 weeks. Currently, we are in the mode of we're currently in this phase now, through verifying applicants and intaking documents by way of fax, in-person drop-off, mail, and through a secure upload link. The last phase is the preparation phase. This is where verified families are then referred to our partners at Portland Housing Center, where home buying specialists, Christy Gifford, will be assisting them in preparing for the home buying process. And through there, they'll be getting the necessary guidance and support that they need to become mortgage ready. Next slide, please. Thank you. Current actions that we have completed now. So applications, of course, have been processed. Confirmation of receipt has been sent to all applicants. This essentially means that everyone has been notified that their application has been received and that they will be intermittently notified of the next steps, depending on which phase they are in with respect to their point cohorts, because we are verifying by point cohort. Upcoming actions include we're going to be continuing to send requests to point cohort groups, requesting them to submit their materials. We will be reviewing and verifying those submitted documents and notifying applicants, all the families, of their verification status. So if we've received it, and if they and letting them know if they have another opportunity to submit verification documents. We're doing it a little differently this time. Next slide, please. So a little bit on how we're currently enhancing engagement. We've increased the frequency of our virtual information sessions, and we actually have it broken down in 3 phases. So we have, of course, one of the first session topics is understanding the preference policy. This has been taking place throughout the summer of last year through some of the early winter, spring parts of this year. The next phase is verifying preference points. That is where we are explaining and walking people through essentially what they need to submit, answering common questions, and providing guidance on how people can go about getting the documents, that valid documents that we are asking them to provide to verify their preference. The last phase will be preparation for referral to the Portland Housing Center. These sessions are held virtually. The first session topic in phase 1 was held primarily in person. Verifying preference points is provided virtually so we can increase access and as a way to better accommodate families that may not be able to come on site for various reasons, including that related to COVID and folks being immunocompromised. These sessions, the goal is to provide a comprehensive support and clarity to applicants throughout the process and to ensure that we're continually engaging with them so they are familiar with where they are in the process. It does require a bit of patience as we are doing it by point cohort. So we appreciate the community for having patience with us, for continuing to call and email us with questions, and for the patients in receiving the notices affirming that we either received their documents or that we are extending additional time to them for whatever reasons they may need. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to open the floor for any questions or concerns you may have. I welcome any feedback you may have. I'm here to address any issues or provide further clarifications on any of the topics that I've discussed today, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. I turned my head to the left, and John made a comment in regard to 137 individuals applying for what was historically the eminent domain impact. It speaks to my mind and heart to say the work we're doing is so significant and important that there are this many people that are still impacted by city action, and to think about an opportunity to do something to address that, right? It's pretty phenomenal. So thank you. I'll go the same route I've gone. Ms. Holden, Ms. Sheila, any comment or thought?
No comment.
Thank you. Ms. Tanisha Renee.
Hey, Davisha, I just wanted to ask a question about, I know that it comes up to, and where we are just with the housing market and stuff, when it comes to screening the applicants for their financial income, where would that part happen?
Yes, thank you for the question, Ms. Tanisha. Are you talking about in the current phases that we are as it relates to the phases?
Yes.
That's after, that's right after the preparation phase, which is where I would like to do a handoff session essentially. It's still in the workings and I need to talk with my whole team. So that's just a preview right now. But it happens after the preparation phase, during the preparation phase, actually. It's not us who conducts the overall analysis or even provides the guidance to support the applicant through that home buying journey. That goes to my colleague, Ira, who then makes that official transfer to Portland Housing Center. Does that answer it adequately?
Yes, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you. Aquiles.
Thank you. How long does it take from that application process to the preparation process? Approximately? How many weeks?
Yeah, definitely more than weeks. It depends. Not my favorite answer to give, but it does depend. In this case, it depends on their point cohort. So because it's a list that aims at prioritization, if we're working with a 6-point cohort, there still is waiting period from the time that they applied to the time they're officially transferred, because we have to verify all the individuals who are after them. So with our current timeline as it stands now, they applied in April, and we're anticipating providing that at the end of summer, like at the end of August. So it 6-point applicants and eminent domain applicants, priority status applicants would expect around September, October, however long the process takes for each grouping to be transferred to the Portland Housing Center. And it, of course, is measured by the capacity of how many folks PHC can take, how many folks we're referring at a time. Does that answer your question adequately, Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you.
John.
Yeah, I think my question is sort of piggybacks on Achilles. I'm just curious, can you speculate when the last eminent domain issue came, has that action took place? I mean, like, what, about 20 years ago was probably the last road or city repossession of a piece of land or whatever. But I think that what that leads me to is the question I asked you, is it a difficult process for people to come up and show you that they were affected by that? In other words, have any, records? And I mean, how long would they keep something like that? I mean, if it goes back 20, 15 years, I mean, are they having a problem presenting this kind of information to you?
Well, real quick, I can answer the first part, and then I'll let Davisha answer the second part. So the last city action that is included in the preference policy was the building of the Interstate Max. So when the Interstate URA was created was the last time that any city action created eminent domain and people were, had to move or lost their business.
Okay.
So, and that was in the year 2000.
2000?
Yeah. Go ahead, Davisha.
Of course, I struggle to find the mute button in that moment. Yes, so to your latter part of your question about it being challenging, I will say for priority status designation for those who have been impacted by eminent domain, and this includes their descendants as well, right? There's no expectation for them to present that information. That's actually research done by our team through various cross-checks. It is, however, challenging, I will say, for the only ask, let me go back to that, actually is for them to provide what's called a family tree document. It's essentially just saying your relation to the person that was impacted. We know we're working with a lot of people who are descended from the people who were impacted by that. So them having something kind of lying around is going to be very challenging, especially when there wasn't adequate documentation kept on people who were like non-owners or what have you, that were impacted by those urban renewal actions, including the latest one that Leslie mentioned. To the note of verification, like documents to be supplied, that is something that people who applied for points, we do ask them to provide. And to your question of it being a challenge, it does pose a challenge for some people. This is why we wanted to make sure we increased like the sessions that we provide. Every point cohort has an opportunity to attend a session. We have had low attendance for transparency, so we're currently pivoting, it's a lot of pivoting and making sure we're accommodating people and giving them ample notice to ensure that they come to these virtual sessions, because a lot of good information is shared. So we are sending out mailers to individuals, inviting them and letting them know that, you got this letter and you got this guide. A verification guide is provided with them as well that details the documents that are acceptable, as well as specific details on how to get certain documents. So that is provided to people to help ease the challenge or with the natural anxieties that may come from providing a document from, say, 10, 15 to 20 years ago. And then the information session is where I make myself available, my colleague Shreya makes herself available as well, and supporting in the chats to ensure that people who have those kind of questions can still come to us. I will also note the letter is very detailed and the guide is very comprehensive. So a lot of paper can probably be overwhelming for people to read. So this is kind of a reiteration of what's provided in that guide. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Much kudos to y'all also for the effort. That sounds like really a big effort. you know, to be able to reveal some of that stuff. So I do appreciate that information, you taking the time to answer that question for me. Just one last part to that, though. Is the same demographic that has to go about, you know, proving all this stuff to you, or is that same demographic responding to your online calls?
Responding to our.
Is that same demographic being responsive to your online calls? In other words, your sessions online, are they responding to that online call?
It's a lower attendance. I will say the sessions have been more intimate. They've been valuable, though, but it is more intimate. I wish we had more people coming. I have a hope, since we're doing what we are calling a last chance opportunity. My colleague has been leading this effort very strongly, very well, where people who did not verify, maybe they had that anxiety, maybe they were on vacation, maybe in the hospital, whatever reason, they have one more opportunity to verify. So I'm hoping at that last session, I don't have the date at the top of my mind, but I do know it's in the latter part of July. I'm hoping that they come to either that weekday evening session or that weekend session, because I've extended it to Saturday as well. And we hope we get more attendees. And with the mailers and notices, we get more attendees. I'd like to see more people there.
Well, keep us posted on that part of it, will you please? And thank you for taking the time to answer my question for me, okay?
Absolutely.
Just real quick. Divisha, can you send that information over to John to see if maybe he can get it out as well? Of the dates of those?
Most definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, feet on the street, yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly the thought that ran through my mind, is just what could we do to help with outlets and networks to get the information out so that people can participate. I want to acknowledge the effort and energy that's gone into streamlining and improving the process. And so appreciate the responsiveness demonstrated by the actions that you talked about, the way you're engaging and working to engage community at a higher level. That's fantastic. One of the concerns we had, and you heard us voice repeatedly, is how are people getting to know, how much are folks getting taken through a process that's educating them, et cetera, et cetera. We have this great policy in place. We need to make sure that everyone knows about the policy and then can get access to it. So let us know how we could, leverage our networks and connections to help get that word out. We want people to be in attendance, because the best thing I can think of is folks getting to home ownership and being able to build an asset and build wealth and be able to pass that on generationally. So thanks, Divisha. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. We are now at 6:43, or just about 10 minutes behind on our process. We are still going to maintain the hour that we had planned for this time. I believe the presenters are told you've got about 20 minutes to present, about 10 minutes worth of questions. I don't know that we'll have 10 minutes of questions tonight just because of the number of Oversight Committee members here. But I want you to know you're going to have exactly the 20 minutes that we talked about for you to present. So don't be worried in relationship to the fact that we're a little bit behind on our time. We're going to start with our project presentation on Cary Boulevard. So, Habitat. Yes. And you can push the mic. If it is red, push it to turn it green, and you are good to go.
Great. Testing. Is that working? All right. Good evening.
Oh, absolutely. You can get the other mic.
We're okay. He's going to do most of the talking. So.
Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Holt, Director Hisserick, members of the committee, Housing Bureau, in our community. I'm Steve Messinetti. I'm the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Portland region, and we are thrilled once again to be partnering with all of you on another Northeast Housing Strategy project, helping families and households in our community buy a home of their own, households that make as little as $40,000 a year to achieve home ownership. I'm joined by Erin Maxey, Habitat's home ownership program manager or director, and Ian Gallagher, who is Habitat's senior project manager. And Ian's really leading the project, and that's mostly what we're here to talk about. Erin and I will help answer what we hope are some of your challenging questions at the end as well. So turn it over to Ian.
Cool. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, so the goal today is just to give you all an update on the progress we've made in the last year. on the design of this project, talk a little bit about the timeline, and we're also going to go a little bit into some of the community engagement that we've been working on recently. So next slide, please. So 2023 is when the project was greenlit, and that year I would say was all about figuring out what can we do here. Basically, this constraints placed on us by planning, zoning, transportation requirements, whatnot. Doing site studies, environmental assessments, trying to figure out basically what can we put here. This year has been more about, okay, now that we know the constraints, what do we want to put here that's going to make this community feel really welcoming and like an exciting place that people who are applying through the North-Northeast housing strategy, a place that they really want to live. And that's what the community engagement survey that we did this spring, and then the event, which is actually taking place on the 22nd, so just a little bit over a week away, are all about. This fall, we'll be finalizing the plans and submitting for permits. And then 2025 should be the year that we get the land from Portland Housing Bureau next summer. And we'll have permits at that time and be ready to go. Next slide. I'm going to go into a little bit more of the community engagement process that we've been working on the last couple of months. We've had the pleasure to work with Camille Trummer, who's a community outreach consultant. She got on board with us in January, helped us design a survey that was sent out to everybody on the wait list, and heard back from them. And I think in a couple slides, we'll get into a little bit of what we heard. Next slide, please. A couple of quotes just that, we received here. We've got, I love the community and family feeling of St. John's. I respect the history of it and would love to be a part of its future. Another person said, I grew up there. The memories, some good, some bad, but the people of the neighborhood are the ones who raised me and taught me life. Next slide. And next slide as well. So yeah, we'll get into some of the findings. We had 189 total submissions out of around 1,000 people that we sent it out to. The demographics of the participants were 78% female, 84% Black, 58% 25 to 45, 43% single. Overwhelming majority from Multnomah County, 93% had never purchased a home. And also we highlighted this one, a large amount not living with anyone over 55 plus. That was just a highlight for us because with a lot of Habitat families, typically there's multi-generational households. So that we were noticing some of the demographics were just a little different in this survey than a lot of the other households that Habitat serves. Next slide, please. So here's a couple of pie charts talking about household composition. The one on the left is showing you the number of people in a household of folks who responded. So we had a lot of one-person and two-person households. So 30% one person, 27% two people, and 26% three people. So again, not like really large household sizes that Habitat is kind of used to. And then on the right-hand side, we've got living with children. So 40% no children, 28% with one kid, 18% with two kids. So those two kind of go hand in hand. Next slide. So in addition to getting some demographics, we used the survey to ask people some actual design questions. Like I said, we're working under a lot of constraints, density requirements, transportation requirements, urban forestry, et cetera. So there's a lot about the site that has already been defined. But there's also some room for us to play around. And so one example was in the common areas, the green areas of the site. We have some choice about what do we put there. And we figured let's ask people who are on the wait list, prospective home buyers, what do you want to put there? So some of the ideas that we put out there were a playground, a community garden, maybe a barbecue area with picnic tables, maybe a basketball hoop or a fenced dog area, or little free libraries. As you can see, more people are interested in the playground, community garden, barbecue area, less so on like the little free libraries or the dog area. You'll see later on when I show you the site plan, though, we also have some different sized common areas, so we might be able to sprinkle in a few of these throughout the site. Next slide, please. We also asked folks about the importance of access to the amenities. So we'll be, designing and building this whole community as a condominium HOA, so kind of privately contained, but also part of the neighborhood. So how accessible do we want to be to the neighborhood? For example, there's the Peninsula Crossing Trail just to the west of this property. So we asked folks about importance of access to that trail. A little over half thought that was important. And then we also asked about access to the larger neighborhood, and a lot more people saw that. About 3/4 said, yeah, that's very important to us, to have these amenities be accessible to everybody in the neighborhood. And the next slide, we have some additional learnings. We asked folks about what kinds of colors we want to put on the homes. 3/4 of participants preferred the townhomes to have multiple field colors and preferred earth tones more over the cool modern colors. We also asked about porches, and most participants were, it was very important to have a front porch, especially one that is private with ability to sit. And respondents also were overwhelmingly in favor of tall backyard fences for privacy, as opposed to lower ones, and with that lattice top style that you see there. And the next slide has our final question, was about names. We're not sure yet how we're going to name this community, but we thought let's just put it open-ended out there, see if people have some suggestions. And so some people did chime in with specific names of community members that they thought might be honored here. And then other folks chimed in saying kind of the opposite of maybe we shouldn't, name it after a person and maybe more of a concept or something. So we're going to ask all of these same questions that we asked during the survey at the event on Monday the 22nd, get more input, and then work with Camille to help guide us and figure out what to do with all of that. Next slide is about the engagement event. Like I mentioned, it's on the 22nd. It's going to be right here back at New Song, 5:30 to 7. We're going to have 100 people. I think we've already got 93 people RSVP'd. So thank you, Gwen, for handling that. And we're going to take that opportunity to do what we're doing right here, actually, and update folks on the design progress, show them some visuals of what we've designed so far, and then ask for input on the same questions. And the next slide is just same information there of after the event, we'll review with Camille, figure out some lessons learned, and then work with our architects to incorporate those into the design. And finally, of course, report back to the community to let them know, hey, here's what we heard from you, and here's how we're using that information in the design. So that's our community engagement process, and then you can actually go to even the next slide. I wanted to show you the progress that we've made on the site plan. So I think we were here about a year ago, and it has changed a lot since then. The biggest thing that we learned last year that impacted the site was we had to put a public road right through the middle of the site. You can see that there, it's North Minerva Street. It was on the maps, but there's nothing there currently. It's just a paper road, as they call it. So we will be developing that road, and then we've got a couple of parking areas off of it. And I'll just run through some of the metrics of the site. We've got 50 homes here. And when we were designing this project, we had a lot of different values that we were trying to balance based on what we've heard from past North-Northeast housing strategy projects, both that Habitat has done and that we have heard from all of you. Things that we heard that were important were having a parking space, so not just street parking, but having an assigned parking space. We heard an interest in having like townhome style as opposed to stacked condos. So you'll notice we have the side-by-side homes as opposed to like a stacked apartment complex. Interest in having some private space, some private yard space. We also heard an interest in having detached homes, and you'll look at this site and you see it's mostly attached. In order to get the density required on this site, there just wasn't any other way around it. However, we did manage to get, if you look really closely there, we've got 2 detached homes, and those actually provide a really interesting opportunity. Those 2 houses are single story. They're going to be highly accessible homes, so we'll be marketing them to a very unique kind of subset of the buyers who maybe need more of those accessibility features. So let me see. So 50 homes. We have a mix of 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. Let's see. It's 17 2 bedrooms, 21 3 bedrooms, and 12 4 bedrooms. And after hearing back from the survey, I feel pretty good about that mix as far as the household sizes that are interested in buying these homes. I think it's going to be a pretty good fit. Let's see what else. We've got some trees being preserved on site. So you can see in the top left corner there's a big heritage tree, a big giant redwood that'll be preserved. And then, oh yeah, I mentioned parking. There will be 50 homes and 50 assignable parking spaces, plus more parking on the street for overflow for families that have more than 1 home. And you can go to the next slide. For just kind of a more 3D view of the site. And those little pop-outs are kind of highlighting the common areas that we're hoping to put some amenities in. So again, in the top left corner, we've got the heritage tree. We can't really develop anything there. It's got a very large root zone that we have to be very sensitive about. We can't develop in that area, but potentially could be some picnic tables or I don't know, something like that. More in that central area, the space looks kind of small on this view, but it's actually pretty decently large. That could be a good spot for tucking in like a playground or some gardens or something. And then there's a few smaller spots where maybe, a barbecue or, I don't know, and we'll be working through that in the design process. I think that is, there's one more slide. So just next steps. You're probably as excited as I am to get this one built. It's still going to be a while. We're having our engagement event next Monday. We'll be incorporating the findings this fall and going in for permits. We hope to have permits next summer, get the land from PHB in July 2025, and immediately start site development. It's a pretty large site, about 3 acres, so that site development is probably going to take us 10 months to a year. To get that public road in and all the utilities. So summer 2026 is when I think we're going to start vertical construction. And the timeline we've given is starting to sell homes in 2028 and being out of there by 2029. So there you go. Happy to answer questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And you did it in 14 minutes. Super impressive. Not that I was watching the clock. Miss Sheila. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. You said 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. What is in a development, I guess it's a pod of townhouses. With a 4 bedroom, what are the sizes of those bedrooms, and will they have window space?
I got a couple of answers to that, and I don't know if Steve maybe has a better idea of our typical sizes off the top of his head, but for windows, yes, all the bedrooms have windows. For the 4plexes, we're going to have the 4-bedroom and the 3-bedroom on the ends, and then the 2-bedroom in the middle, so that we're really making the best use of the natural light. I think that our home sizes are typically around, for the 2 bedrooms, like maybe 1,000 square feet, and then 3-bedroom is more like 12 to 14. 4-bedroom might be a little larger, 1,500 or 1,600, something like that. I'll have to check the plans. Can definitely get that information for you later.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Miss Tanisha?
Hi, yeah, I did have a question, and I might have missed this. For the community event that you're having coming up here on the 22nd, are the new applicants of the policy or the preference policy being invited? And how did you determine who to invite to the event?
Yeah, great question. yeah, we wanted to hear from the people who might be living here. So, yes, we invited everybody on the wait list, and then basically took the first 100 people to respond, because there just wasn't going to be any way to get everybody there.
We do have a wait list, Tanisha, so
Yeah.
the 100 plus a little bit of wait. But given the short timeline, we needed to, that was the quickest way, but it did go out to all 1,000 people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Achilles.
What's your estimating cost for a buyer for the 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom? Do you have any estimate?
Yeah, one thing that's a little different about how Habitat for Humanity works is that we actually structure their mortgage based on the household income. So I mentioned that we can even qualify families that make as little as $40,000 a year. We'll make sure their payment is less than 30% of that income, which means that they'll have a lower first mortgage than a family that makes, say, $50,000 or $60,000 a year. So while the homes, of course, cost quite a bit more, the sales will be in the 150 to maybe 75 range. Does that sound about right? Check my numbers. And again, that first mortgage will be based on income.
Thanks.
Awesome. John.
Is there any expectations on those mortgages, those first mortgages at that low price? I mean, in other words, is there a timeline before they can resell them or all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so two aspects of that. One, so they'll get a 30-year fixed mortgage, so there's no differences in terms of their fixed mortgage. And we actually have partnerships with banks that will provide lower rate mortgages. So right now we're selling homes at 4.75, which is better than market. As market comes down, we expect that even to come down further, which will give folks more buying potential and more of that money that they put in going to their principal payments rather than paying the bank. These homes are all what we call, they have lasting affordability. So there is a restriction that this home that they buy is sold to another household under 80% of area median income. So what that means is they'll buy it for a price and then they can sell it for that price plus a percentage of the appreciation, which is a formula over time that allows for that family to earn equity in their home, but it also allows for another family in the future to buy it if they ever choose to sell.
Interesting. And how close is this site to any major retail, food stores, that kind of stuff?
You have that one?
Yeah, I wish I had included a neighborhood map. Really close, right on the other side of, so there's like the Peninsula Crossing Railroad there and the trail. And it's kind of sandwiched between Lombard and then Willamette down here. But there's a giant Fred Meyer there and also a New Seasons and like a whole bunch of businesses along Lombard. It's also pretty close walking distance to a park. I'm forgetting the name of it right now. It's a pretty good little spot. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. One last question that I have. I mean, your numbers, 78% of the 84% of the Black and African American. Are you saying that percentage of those, that 84% is women higher percentage in women than there are men?
Yeah, that was just like the demographics of people who responded to the survey. So we sent the survey out to everybody on the wait list. 189 people completed it. 78% of those were women. So yeah, more women responded than men.
And is any of your engagement going to somehow or another try to reach the demographics that are not present or have a more of an sort of disparity?
I think that we're trying to get as much reach as we can by having the online survey and then having the in-person event. So we're hoping that we'll get a little bit of a different group that way. I guess we'll see how it goes.
You know, I'm in the media business, and I get very uncomfortable when I look at the demographic numbers of who's online and who's not. You know, and especially over the last 10 years. And as much as we want to believe that the Black and African American demographic is online, the numbers are still relatively low. So I become a little bit uncomfortable, you know, if we keep using that as a singular platform to engage the demographic.
Yep.
You know, so, you know, these are homes, so I don't have a lot to say about that part of it, but because, I mean, home ownership is home ownership, but hey, I would appreciate if you guys sort of assert yourself a little bit more to look at those numbers in a way that perhaps you can engage them to get some equity in them.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And like I said, I agree with you. You know, there's been so much pivot to doing things online nowadays, and it was really important to us to have that in-person event for that reason.
I'd agree.
So we're looking forward to that.
Yep, thank you.
John, just one click, because Dr. Holt asked the same question. Probably about 90% of the people that applied for the preference for homeownership applied online. So these are the same people that, at least to get onto the list, used online technique.
Gotcha.
And so,
so you got it in tow. That
yeah, we're
demographic is
hoping.
pretty much so.
We're hoping. We'll see after we do the in-person event in 2 weeks or a week and a half, who shows up. Hopefully we'll have a better balance of men and women and in the age group.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Aaron, Steve, Ian, thank you very much. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming. Appreciate the information, the report. Yeah. I have no public questions. We've talked quite a bit privately, so there's nothing I've got to ask. Next up, M. Carter Commons. Come on up and join us. And again, you are more than welcome to grab another of the microphones and, yeah, get as many chairs as you need. Wonderful. Same rule. If it's red, nobody can hear you. If it's green, everybody can hear you. So it's okay. It's okay.
Y'all grab one of them chairs.
I want to move the one to the middle, and there you go. Welcome. Please introduce yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Bradshaw from Northwest Housing Alternatives.
My name is Leora Beverly, and I'm a senior program manager with the Urban League of Portland.
Good evening. I'm Arlita Christian with the Urban League of Portland.
I'm Kelly Irish. I'm Associate Director of the Housing Programs at Urban League.
Great. Thank you for having us this evening. The last time that we came and presented to this group was in November of last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
And at that point, we had applied for our last major piece of funding, which were our low-income housing tax credits, but we had not heard yet at that point whether we had gotten awarded. First slide, please. Since then, we have received our award, which was the last major funding piece we needed to pull into place. And we've been moving full speed ahead since that point. We've completed all of our construction documents, and we have applied for permit, which we got in at the beginning of May. Now we're moving towards focusing on, because we have an assigned closing date from the state of Oregon for our construction close the last week of January next year. I know that seems like, as we sit here in summer, that's quite a ways away, but it'll be here before we know it. Yes, it's so true, especially with the holidays. So we are focusing in on all the activities that we need to be able to complete to successfully close on time. Our general contractor is getting bidding packages together right now. They've been going through their pre-outreach to be able to notify subcontractors, in particular, focusing in on co-bid certified subcontractors in the community about this bidding opportunity coming up. They will be releasing at the end of August. with bids due at the end of September, and us moving forward, hopefully. It's a very volatile market, continues to be, but we are hoping to have finalized pricing by the end of October, Halloween. All of this is to be able to move into all of our final approvals, which will be with Metro and the City of Portland, the State of Oregon, all happening before the holidays, because even though our closing is at the end of January, with the holidays and New Year's, we'll be having everything in place and ready to go before the end of the year, and then hopefully move very quickly into closing on our financing end of January and getting underway with construction. It will be a 16-month construction schedule with us finishing in May of 2026. And so we've brought all of those pieces together and have a very strong roadmap. What we would love to share more about this evening, I think, is really focusing in on the people that will be calling M. Carter Commons home. And at this point, I'd like to hand it over to the Urban League of Portland team to talk more about resident services, the community we'll be building there, and most importantly, the outreach that we'll be doing in conjunction with the North-Northeast Preference Policy households.
Before you go to that, who's going to do the actual leasing? Are you guys hiring a property management company?
Yes, we have a third-party property management company, Cascade Management, that will be on this project. I will say, though, my organization, Northwest Housing Alternatives, takes a very active role in lease-up. It's not something that we hand off to a third party. We're very engaged, and in this partnership with the Urban League of Portland team, they will, with us together as the two co-developers, co-owners, we will be engaged very much in that lease-up process.
Yeah, so just, we've had ongoing kind of struggles with property management companies. And so the sooner that we can, I know we had one meeting with you all like last fall or something, right after you got awarded, that we start having those conversations. And so that we can likely do like a special outreach for is it over 50 or over 55?
Over 55.
Okay, so for folks that are over 55 to get onto the list in conjunction with the Urban League. I know they have a senior program. But yeah, that property management piece has been critical in us ensuring a smooth lease up. And we want to make sure people get trained right away about the preference policy, that this isn't like other leasing. Folks say, oh, well, I've been leasing for blah, blah, blah. I've been leasing for 50 years. I've been leasing for, that's not this. And so we just really want to make sure that we're all on the same page, as they say. But I just wanted to make sure that I knew who that was. And so, Divisha, you're still on. We need to look at putting some meetings on the books.
Sounds good. I'm noting it.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, Leslie, because that is on our radar, to be able to start really early with that outreach, to be assembling our interested parties list way ahead of the building completing. And I know that the Urban League team has experience with lease-ups, and I know you're going to speak about that this evening.
So before we get started, I'm just going to share a little bit about Urban League. So we've been doing housing programs for a long time, but we also been doing the permanent supportive housing. We started in 2016. And we started with our Project Haven program, which Lior oversees. And we also, additionally, every year, I think we've added a program, which we just did the Hattie Redmond, which is one of the lease-ups we just did, if you're familiar with. We have the Renaissance Commons, and then we're also opening next month the Fairfield. But we also have other services. So we have emergency services that we provide for housing stabilization. And there's a street outreach. They also do shelter, transitional housing. And then on my side that I oversee is the long-term housing, which is for rapid rehousing, and then our permanent supportive housing. which means on the rapid rehousing is really eviction prevention is what we do, so helping people stay in their places or quickly placing them and they only need a short time help. And then we have the longer term, which is the permanent supportive housing. And Arlita is the Director of Health and Senior Services, and she's overseeing this project, so I'm going to hand it off to her.
Okay. And I have to say that this is my first go around. I'm really excited and a little nervous, so I'm going to read off here.
Don't be nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Don't be nervous.
But I'm going to read off of this. I don't want to miss anything. So I just wanted to share the project scope. So the Margaret Carter Commons is a new affordable senior apartment development, North Interstate Avenue in Overlook Park, delivered through the collaboration and co-development and co-ownership of the Urban League of Portland and Northwest Housing Alternatives. The project is envisioned to have 62 accessible apartment homes, an on-site manager's unit, a community room, property management, and resident services office, and also a laundry room, and a protected entry courtyard. The project will serve residents 55 years and older, utilizing the North-Northeast preference policy. Urban League will lead outreach and culturally specific and responsive.
You've got background music that's coming in to support you. It's amazing.
There we go.
But if you could just speak a little louder. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. And responsive services in collaboration with NHA's Resident Service Asset Management, Housing Development, and Resource Development. So the apartment will have, or the building will have 55 one-bedrooms and 7 studios, apartments in the unit. And I did want to add, yes, I am the Director of Health and Senior Services, and we've been doing case management and activities for a number of years. I've been with the Urban League 26 years, so a very long time. And we have a variety of case management services and a variety, like I was saying, of activities. There's transportation, there's walking groups, there's cooking groups, day excursions, and yes, we do take them to the casino every now and then. But it's all to keep our older adults active, safe, in a safe place, and to keep them busy. And that's the same thing that we want to do at the Margaret Commons building. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Hello, y'all.
Hello, but before you guys go further, am I following something in this syllabus, or are you guys just reading off of something different than we have?
We have a few extra pages.
Oh, you the mysterious type. Okay, thank you.
I did want to read some of this, but mainly just speak from the heart because we know that resident services is a needed thing in almost every supportive housing establishment. I have the privilege and honor of overseeing several permanent supportive housing programs with the Urban League, and they're all beautiful, and what makes them so special is that the people that work there go above and beyond to provide a service unlike any other organization. Our resident services stands out. It's quite unique. We have access to so many different resources and keeping our participants engaged, checking to see if people are really okay. It's about being a good human, really, more than anything. And I think that with this opportunity with M. Carter, I think that it's going to be yet another beautiful event. Both myself and Miss Arlita do things that are very similar. It was so funny because I kept thinking, that's weird, we always do the same stuff. But her program is for seniors and mine is for a wide variety of people. But with this one, it's very intentional about keeping people connected with the opportunity for a sense of community. I think that one thing that will be super important is our resident services coordinator. I have one on my team. Her role is to make sure that every resource, every bit of help, and everything that you can think of that a person might need can be brought right into their hands, because oftentimes we've noticed as people get older and older, they begin to lose grasp of the things that they need. They begin to not necessarily be as connected with how we move now as a society. So what I love is that it's like resident services is kind of like a human Google. a person that you can go to and ask questions, and they can break it down, make it make sense, and make it accessible for all. So I'm really excited. So Ms. Arlita said it best, but the Health and Seniors team has actually been active for 50 years, serving over 6,000 seniors pre-pandemic. A dedicated resident services coordinator will be on site 20 hours per week to coordinate and support a variety of activities and services, including the transportation, social engagement, housing assistance, income development, and access to medical services. The resident services coordinator will work also to connect seniors to Urban League's Northeast Portland Multicultural Senior Center, which is the only Black culturally specific senior center program in the state, which is amazing. So resident services will be tailored to the needs of the individuals. Initial and regular tenant surveys and outreach will determine specific needs, identify holes in services to prioritize, track usage, and focus on stabilization and betterment of each household's position. Regular meetings between property management and resident services staff will identify the supports needed before resident situations occur. On lease-up, resident service staff will support potential residents to lower barriers to access services and assist in appeals to residency if denied. Ongoing support for new residents will be available for building community with other residents, access to emergency resources for domestic violence, financial coaching, and tenancy education, support with food security and personal hygiene needs, conflict resolution support, connection to health and wellness services, transportation assistance, and other services offered at a similar properties and programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for the commentary. You must have known. Part of the concern we have is associated with the work that has happened in this space. You've heard some of the reports. You've got a chance to see some of the impacts from what we plan to how it gets implemented, and then the issues associated in between. A couple of questions I have, but they may be asked by other members. So I'm going to go to Ms. Sheila and see if you've got any comments or questions.
I appreciate what you've said and the idea of how you proactively connect and proactively create community among a diverse group of seniors. So I like that. I guess my question is still, though, there are some issues that we've had in our other facilities that I know were impacted seniors a lot, and that is issues around safety within the facility, issues around how their mail is handled, how they access in and out of the facility. How are you guys working to address that there is someone that's going to be there to ensure that there's no issues with mail, there's no issues with them having access or being having other people in the building that may be guests of other residents?
Thank you for asking that question, Sheila, because we heard that very loud and clear when we did our initial community engagement work. We held 2 community sessions at the Multicultural Senior Center, and I would say safety and security was top of the list. We also heard that from the Urban League staff as well as our own residents. We have a resident advisory board, especially for older adults in our communities. So taking that feedback, we've gone through and tried very hard to kind of put in multiple layers, both active and more passive. I think number one is if people feel safe and comfortable in their community, they're going to be out and about. They're going to be in the hallways. They're going to be in the lobby. They're going to be in the community room. They're going to want to be out and about. And that brings just eyes on to the community. But also knowing that, you know, people aren't going to be out 24 hours a day. So we have, I almost hate to say it, but it just is true in this world. We want cameras everywhere. We want them in the stairwells. We want them at the entryways and the elevators and all of the hallways. So we have a very broad coverage with cameras throughout the building. We have a double entry system, which is something that actually NHA, we've tried to implement on all of our new buildings now. So to come into the building, someone can come up to the front door, they're visiting a friend, they go to the access control system, they can get through into the lobby, but then the elevators and all entry doors to the residential floors will be with key fobs. So you always have 2 points between you. So if somebody scoots through the door, if they're following somebody, maybe the UPS delivery person, they wouldn't be able to get into the residential areas. And that was one of our things that we wanted to be able to have. The outdoor space, it's a secure courtyard. So someone can go out there and enjoy a sunny day, but again, it's got a fobbed key access, so it's a place where it's residents and their guests. And we've also built into our operations budget additional money to be able to have foot patrols, and I know that this is something that we had heard from the Hattie Redmond, and we've been hearing from other properties, just in those off hours, having someone stroll through at different times. So we've tried to really put a lot of layers, but I still want to circle back to that importance of if we create a building where people feel safe, they'll want to be out and about. We have lots of windows into the community spaces, so there aren't hiding places or corners someone could be. We have a big lobby, loved the lobby at the Hattie Redmond, where everyone sits and waits for the mail to be delivered. So the mailboxes are arranged in an area with a large sitting area. We also have a secure package room, knowing that a lot of residents will be getting everything from packages to possibly prescriptions and medication and even groceries delivered, and an area for package parcel lockers. That's a little new to us, so I have to admit we're still figuring out the parcel locker piece, but we have time before it opens. But we did try, we heard that loud and clear and wanted to really create a place that residents would feel safe.
We appreciate that. Go for it.
No, go ahead.
You know, I really appreciate the detail you ladies have put into this. And you might have, over the months and the years, obviously you've been listening. You know, because I mean we're real clear. But what is also we're real clear is that people have sat there in the very same chair and outlined a lot of these things. And when the project was done, none of these things really, some of them didn't exist. And so, you know, we're really conscientious about that, and especially about the safety of elders and those kinds of things. So we appreciate that y'all ladies have put some effort into thinking about some of the safety issues that are required for that. I'm just curious, I mean, have you realized that there's a long-term budget reality associated with some of these mechanisms that you're talking about, right? And y'all have adequately planned for all that, and yeah. So anyway, I really appreciate the effort that y'all ladies are putting into it again, and I'll reiterate that. And you know, because y'all made it sound so good that I might want to check in one of these places are pretty close to that time, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, keep up the good work, moving along. I was trying, like I said, to follow, and the fact that y'all have worked with 6,000. But I remember I think some of the first housing the Urban League attempted to work toward. And I think it was some collaboration issues, I mean, things that y'all had worked through, and so I'm glad to see. But in your packet also, is there present an agreement between your organization and the Urban League that we haven't seen? And have we seen that agreement? Okay. Is it possible that we can see that agreement that y'all have with each other?
Yes, you mean our code development agreement?
Yes.
It's finalized and actually has been approved by our board, and it's going to the Urban League board in August. And as soon as it's executed, we'd be happy to share it.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Ms. Tanisha, questions and comments?
I don't have any questions or comments at this time.
Thank you very much. Aquiles.
Just gonna say, make sure that you guys cover your bases. Who's going to be managing the site? I mean, you mentioned one Cascade Management, but make sure you go over a few more before you settle into one. One suggestion.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
You sure can.
All right. No, I can't ask any questions, John. Okay, there's a couple things that, and I just don't remember from previous presentation. Is there only one laundry room? And where is that?
So I just, before I preface this, I have to remind everyone, we're on a 0.31 acre site.
No, I know.
Yes, and so, yes, we have a large common laundry room on the first floor, right adjacent to the elevator.
Great. And then what about like trash and recycling? Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask that. Oh, the machines, are you gonna do, because this has been another issue in a lot of these new buildings, is everybody's gotta have a card. And so if people don't have a card, is there a place for them to get a card? So just, you don't have to answer it right now, but it's just for future planning as you're thinking about buying appliances.
We have had a lot of feedback on this, and so actually, I will just speak solely from NHA's perspective. We've been going down on a property level to really understand who the specific residents are, and we work with CoinMeter, our vendor, to be able to make sure that we have an appropriate payment option.
Great.
Families, younger folks, they're fine with their phone. Other individuals still like coins, or like the option to be able to feed dollar bills in and then load a prepaid card. So we will customize that, and we do have those options.
Great. And then I forgot, are there any vouchers in this building?
There are 11 project-based vouchers. And were you going to ask about trash and recycling?
Yes, I was going to ask about trash and recycling, because that's another complaint that I've heard over and over and over again about how far away trash and recycling is from the elevators, or people having to get it down to the first floor.
So I actually, please excuse me for being excited about this. I've been doing this for a while. And I have to admit that I learned very early in my career that if you do not plan for trash, it will come back and haunt you for decades afterwards.
You said a mouthful on that, and the boogeyman seems to jump out of there too every once in a while. You know.
So because the building site is so tight and so small, that became a priority actually very early on to figure out. So this is a 6-story building. We have 3 residential units behind their own secured door on the first floor. They have a personal trash and recycling room for just those 3 units. Then floors 2 through 6, there is a recycling room right next to the elevators, and then we have a trash chute that is at the end of the floor that goes straight down. Much of the way that our first floor laid out had to do with trash and where PGE would bring power and where we could bring water in. So the trash chute is unfortunately far away from the people in the north end, but it was driven by where the hauler would come, and we had access off the alley. But yes, that's our system there.
And then no PSH.
No PSH.
Okay. And then the last question. So as part of your safety plan, after hours and emergency, who would people call? Do they call the Urban League person, or is there a security guard? What's going to happen? Because I know you guys have been over at Renaissance, and you know that there's a lot of after-hour stuff. I know PCRI has struggled with that as well. So just if you haven't got to that part, just thinking about,
right,
with seniors, who are they going to call? And it's not Ghostbusters.
Yeah, no. We do have a on-site manager who will be living in the building.
Oh, great.
Yes, so we have a dedicated managers unit, and we will be having that on-site manager.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. And it's great you guys are going to close in January. That means this is going to come to HIC pretty soon. Have we done a pre-dev for you guys yet? We did. We have?
A pre-dev loan for?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, thank you, Portland Housing Bureau, yes.
I just couldn't remember. We do a lot of those, and so I couldn't remember if we approved one for you guys yet.
Oh, no. You all have been wonderful. I have to admit, we've got a lot of wind in our sails right now. Everyone has gotten on board with this project and is helping us move forward. When we got that assigned closing date, everybody said, let's do it. And everybody's behind us to get it done. So we're very excited to be at this point. And hopefully by our next date, we are closed and we can tell you how construction is going and start talking about the outreach and lease-up activities.
Yeah, we just want to see you successful. And the residents benefit from what the efforts have been. Okay, yeah. But so thank you, ladies.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Gwen, communications. Got you, buddy. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gwen Thompson, and I serve as the Communications and Community Engagement Strategist for the Bureau. And I am here to report on your comms update. Next slide. So to start, we've got a recruitment that has been underway for a couple of months for new members for the committee, and we've received 10 applications for 4 slots. Since the closing of the recruitment, we had 1 person who did not complete their application, so they won't be considered, and we had 1 additional person who dropped out because of school and community commitments. So I think it's a good thing that they dropped out before they came on the committee and then didn't show up. So as it exists now, Leslie has a copy of all the applications, and she's going to review those. And then next we will be scheduling some interviews, as well as thinking about when should we have an onboarding event. So I encourage everyone in the committee to consider what might be of service to the committee in onboarding these new members. Maybe it's an event that is including everyone on the committee. Maybe it's an event that includes food and fun, but it's really going to be up to you guys and how you want to engage your new members. I'm looking forward to having a large committee. The next item, next slide, please. So our new director, Helmy, was very encouraging for us to apply for an award. So that, I think, says so much about the committee and the work that the committee has done and the housing strategy in general. After applying for the ACE Award, which is dispensed by the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development at Salem, we got fantastic news. Although we were not the correct applicant to win the award, they wanted to do something great for us. So they decided that they would write a story about the North-Northeast housing strategy and put it on their LinkedIn page. But the good news is that we will be able to leverage that story, not only in our upcoming newsletter, but in other avenues that we pursue in terms of getting awards or other things. So it just was really so wonderful, Helmi, for you to be inspired and to inspire us. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Helmi, for thinking of us like that. Appreciate
Well,
that.
and while John, I know you're getting ready to run out, but I just want to publicly thank Gwen and Divisha because it was a very short turnaround. They had like 3 days.
And Ira.
Oh, and Ira, yes, to try to put this application together, and they were successful. And we got great email feedback from the organization that they really wished that they could have given us an award. Because it's such a great thing that we're doing, but we didn't quite fit the criteria. But this is all because of Gwen and the team putting it together, so yes.
Thanks, Gwen. Thanks, Davisha. Thanks, Ira.
Yeah.
Thanks, Helmi.
Next slide. And then, so for our July newsletter that is going to be published probably on Tuesday the 23rd, we've got Ms. Leslie up for writing the welcome letter. Thank you so much, Leslie. That will be a really good report out from you for this halfway mark through the year. I think there'll be lots of touches that you can make for the community. And then our outline is essentially the same. We've got news, updates, a feature story, and a calendar. So in thinking about making the report to all of you tonight, I really wanted you to think about what events that you want us to bring to the fore to the community. One of the ones that I thought about was the upcoming MLK Dream Run, and of course, John's gone now, but I know that he would love to see that in the newsletter. So what I'll do is I'll send out an email to the entire committee asking what events you know about, how can we support you in getting the message about the work that you're doing as well. And yeah, for July, here's some of the items that we will be featuring. We've got the North-Northeast Annual Report, Habitat and PHB partnering on the Cary Boulevard Design Workshop. We've got the Oversight recruitment that will just let the community know that there'll be new members joining you all. And then we've got the virtual info sessions, preference policy sessions. So that is my report.
Thanks, Gwen. I appreciate it. Thanks for the work and being so consistent with keeping this out front. I'll make a few more comments in just a second, but before I do that, Ms. Sheila, any comments or question for Gwen, who just walked away from the table? Nothing from Ms. Sheila. Ms. Tanisha.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Achilles.
No question, but fantastic. Good job.
One of the things, absolutely, I want to say in regard to this work, Gwen, thank you so much. I feel like this committee, and I've said it to Leslie on numerous occasions, the work that we've done has at times gone under the radar, almost to the point of feeling like the redhead stepchild. That we've been out here and in this space putting forth the energy and the effort to do the work, not for recognition, but for the sake of community, for the sake of those who don't have voice, for the sake of those who haven't had the opportunity to engage in a public process and someone fight for them. Those who've been in this space, Ms. Sheila, Ms. Tanisha, Achilles, and others, it isn't for kudos at all. But there is a moment where I think recognition is appropriate. And more than anything, more than recognition, it's telling the story. That we've missed opportunities to tell this story, to make it loud, to make it clear. This is unique. There is nothing like this that has happened. And to think about 127 homeowners that never would have had an opportunity, but now do. And think about another 70 homeowners that potentially will have an opportunity, that wouldn't have had an opportunity. To think about the number of people that now are in new rental facilities. Yeah, we've got some challenges, but to have gotten to this point because some folks have gone to bat, that's a story worth telling. That's noise worth making, and especially if we're going to leverage this to greater opportunities. When we started this, It wasn't just about using the systems that exist. It was also about pushing the envelopes to create new systems, create new processes. Out of that came the preference policy. Out of that work, the mayor increased the investment opportunities. We then had an opportunity to increase the tax increment financing and do some more work. Well, those are great systems to use, but are there other ways that we can capture and seize this moment? And I think part of being able to do that is telling this story and telling it consistently and being loud and being intentional about it. So thank you for spearheading it and coming on and coming into this space and championing this work. And I appreciate, I said this at the City Council meeting, I appreciate the effort and the energy of Ms. Goodlow to stay as a steward of the process and to keep pushing it and making it something that was protected. I know that everyone hasn't been happy about the Oversight Committee, and especially the leverage and the weight that the Oversight Committee brings into this space. But if we're going to get different results, we've got to be courageous and willing to take different actions. So I appreciate those who've come alongside and this committee and the members who've stuck through the process to keep this as a priority. I will say this, wrapping up my thought around that. Affordable housing isn't just a good idea, it's a human right. And in this particular city, where we've had a people group that have absolutely been left out of the opportunity to gain access to not just housing, but to wealth and to generational opportunities. The work we're doing is generational in its impact. We may not see all the people who benefit from it. We may not be aware of all of those who down the road may not even know that this committee ever existed, which is fine. But someone's got to champion the underdog. Someone's got to champion the process. Someone's got to be willing to step into the space and take the hits and push the work forward. So to the committee who's been in the space and those who are going to come into the space, I appreciate your effort and your energy. And for those who stayed from the inside out, which isn't often appreciated, the inside out strategy, those who are on the inside who are championing this work, I thank you for that. Let's keep doing what's right. So with that, Ms. Goodlow, you've got a comment.
So I have something real quick. As you all know, or hopefully you know, that we on occasion give our rental units a waiver for use of the preference policy if they've been unable to lease the unit for a certain period of time. Initially, the waiver, they could get a waiver after 6 months, and then we reduced the wait time to 3 months, so 90 days. And in the last quarter, I have approved a waiver for Songbird for 1 unit, Charlotte B. Rutherford for 2 units, and then Renaissance Commons got a waiver that they used for 28 units. They currently only have 5 units vacant, 5 studios, so that's really great for them because they had been running with a pretty high vacancy rate. And so Divisha, if you could send them over an updated list in the next few days when you have opportunity, that would be great. They sent that request to me, but I just wanted to update the committee on that. We are evaluating how we implement the preference policy going forward for rental. If we can find a more streamlined software system. Helmi has been spearheading us looking at something that makes it less people intensive. So we will keep you apprised as we figure out what the next steps are going to be around that. And then the only other thing would be public comment.
Leslie, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. You can always ask a question, Ms. Sheila.
Well, when you say 28 units have been waived, so what is the makeup of that facility now?
So
in terms of...
So they have 189 units in that building. And at this point, they probably have, because I've given them waivers before that I've reported on in previous months, but probably 40 units are currently non-preference policy people. But when those units come up for being leased again, so if one of those people move out, and we track the units that have been given a waiver, so when those people move out, they would have, that unit would come back onto the preference policy for the next leaser, for the next person to lease that unit. So that's how the waiver works.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the committee? Well, it is 7:50, and we have come to the moment of any public comment. Want to open it up for and ask Ms. Norma, do we have anyone in the queue?
No, we do not.
All right. Wonderful then. Thanks everybody for your time tonight. Please enjoy your evening. Be safe. Bye-bye.